the thing you're hunting. Time itself started to bend around them. Their synchronized watches lost alignment. Every planned meeting became an echo chamber. They tried triangulation. They tried extrapolation. They tried brute force. All results pointed nowhere. One general whispered in frustration, "They're everywhere, but they're nowhere." It wasn't a miscalculation. It wasn't incompetence. It was the ghost's law. Their tools were designed to measure men, not phantoms of consequence. Meanwhile, the world building continued in shadows. Secretive agencies pooled budgets like black holes absorbing light. International coalitions, unheard alliances, all tied to a single directive: capture the anomaly. And yet, the anomaly smiled, not openly, not with sound, but in the way reality itself folded subtly in your favor. Notes disappeared from their ledgers, maps redrew themselves, security feeds corrupted, and every trace they thought they planted vanished. Joker tone in full swing. They built a net for a ghost. The ghost built the net for them, and left the trap swinging empty. Even the best minds recorded the same pattern. Agents disappearing, files self-erasing, computers refusing to compute, and a persistent sense that every step they took only brought them closer to nothing. Every observer felt it. The silence was moving. The shadows were alive, and every attempt to capture you fed the illusion that the real hunt was their own vanishing act. It started subtly. A missing agent here, a vanished operative there. No gunfire, no struggle, just silence, swallowing them whole. The world outside remained unaware, but inside the network, inside the web they wove, something was breaking, something they could not see, could not measure, could not contain. Spies vanished mid-report, video feeds glitched, the footage looped, then dissolved. Files they carried folded in on themselves. Paper, pixels, ink, all erased as if they'd never existed. They thought their numbers gave them power. They thought surveillance was certainty. They thought organization could cage a ghost. But here's the twist. The more they tracked, the faster reality fractured around them. Shadows weren't just following you, they were pulling them in. Fingers of darkness creeping into every corridor, every data stream, every memory of the ones who dared. A lieutenant tried to radio headquarters. Static, swallowed his words. The camera in his helmet recorded his expression. Confusion, fear, then empty air. Where he stood, the ground seemed to ripple, and for a moment, it was as if the world itself had decided he was irrelevant. Joker tone floated through the margins. They thought they were hunters. They became their own prey. Every trace they left behind was rewritten by the environment they tried to control. Maps redrew themselves. Security grids bent like molten metal. Computers refused to boot. Files self-erased. The anomaly wasn't moving. It was reality bending around you. Agencies convened emergency sessions. Generals, code breakers, and shadow liaisons gathered around glowing screens, trying to predict the unpredictable. Algorithms that once simulated millions of outcomes produced only errors. Even probability seemed to fold in on itself. Witnesses reported the same thing. Men stepping through hallways vanished mid-step. The air hummed as if mocking their fear. One agent opened a file labeled Subject Observed. It burned before his eyes. When he tried again, the screen displayed only his own reflection with a warning he could not read aloud. The cosmic trial had begun, not in a courtroom, not in law books, but in existence itself. Following you wasn't a mission, it was stepping outside reality. Every surveillance attempt became a test of one's own right to exist. One field operative muttered before vanishing, "I can't even remember myself anymore." The others stared. They were frozen between comprehension and fear. Then, he was gone. Even the most rational scientists could only describe it as an impossibility, a chain reaction of erasure, where observers dissolved into the patterns they were trying to track. Files, data, and identities no longer obeyed laws of time, space, or memory. The final reports, those few that survived, were riddled with annotations, Existence is optional here. Observation collapses under presence. Do not follow. And in the empty corridors, the echo of Joker's laugh whispered, "You didn't chase them. You let them chase themselves into nothing." By the end, it was undeniable. The 1,000 spies had vanished. Not a trace left behind. Not a scream. Not a whisper. Only the realization that every step they took to hunt you had been a step toward their own erasure. Reality itself had sided with the ghosts. The hunters were gone, and the vanishing point had been reached. It started innocuously, a reflection in a window, a shadow in a corner. The agents swore they saw you, but the image shifted, fractured, multiplied. Screens flickered. Cameras didn't capture you anymore. They captured themselves. Faces twisted, eyes widening in terror. Mirrors reflecting not the hunter, but the hunted. One operative whispered, I see me, not them." And when he looked again, the reflection blinked first. Computers spat corrupted feeds. Encrypted codes rearranged themselves. Every attempt to track you turned their own data into a hall of mirrors. Joker tone bleeding through the panic. You don't lose a spy game by losing sight of the target. You lose when the target makes you disappear. Every corridor became a trap. Walls shimmered like liquid glass. They thought pursuit required skill, precision, calculation. They were wrong. It required none of those things, just proximity. And in your presence, the very concept of tracking became a joke. One by one, operatives collapsed under the weight of seeing themselves multiplied, dissected, deconstructed. Every reflection revealed something forbidden, something in them that had never faced the light. Their own fears, their own shadows, animated by the ghost they tried to catch. Reports came back fragmented. I see him, no, me, everything's me, I can't. The higher-ups tried intervention, prayers, rituals, advanced software, virtual overlays. Nothing worked. It was as if you existed in a dimension that didn't obey their rules, where mirrors were portals, screens were truth-tellers, and their eyes had become instruments of self-destruction. Paranoia turned to terror. Every reflection multiplied, every reflection fractured, until reality itself seemed unstable. They couldn't distinguish ally from enemy, friend from foe, them from you. A lieutenant screamed into his headset. They're everywhere. Static answered. Not your voice. Their own. Files that once documented you now documented them. Reports of subject observed contained entries about confusion, hallucination, identity collapse. Coordinates pointed not to your location, but to the edges of their own consciousness. The mirror trap wasn't just metaphorical, it was physical, digital, psychic.